Okay, so I'm on a roll of sorts. I'm going to break out of that chronology I mentioned and do the journal that I wrote today. Today is 10:15. This is the first journal of the day, the Mayan day. It's an ascension day. It's 13 deer. It's called Come Home to Your Divinity, Value of Trekking Through Muck, Pain versus Suffering. Okay, here goes. What would come through in this odd morning time for me? Let's see, what time did I record this? It was, I figured as much, 1:42 p.m. When rising and sleeping occurs on a whim, so to speak, hours can get quite turned around. It can be fun being so free, but moving on. I have been working through some of my stuff this morning. It naturally comes up for us when we are in heart. Also, I found it best to consecrate my days and night to spirit, source, higher self, the Is-ness, use what word you will, not some external God that one must worship and please, however. That's not for me, not anymore. The religions can only take us so far, and then to truly come home into light, we must set off on our own. And I have done that. Remember, these are just my opinions of things. So, just for an example of how this can be done, I have two prayers that I offer, both first thing and last thing in the day, whenever that is for me. The first one is this: I dedicate, consecrate, and offer this day or night, this life, this all, unto Thee, Almighty God, higher self. My every thought, word, deed, feeling, emotion, body, mind, soul, spirit, all that I am, across time, space, dimensions, densities, incarnations. Take it and me, and make us thine and thee in full, conscious, integrated awareness. Isn't that beautiful? I think so. And this one I found, and I've kept it word for word. Oh, I've got to. Okay. In No More Secrets, No More Lies by Patricia Corey. From the Syrian High Council, it came. I call upon the family of light, asking to be surrounded in an impenetrable blanket of pure white light. As a sovereign being, I intend that this brilliance hold as a barrier against any energies that are not of the highest order, and I ask that those unwelcome energies be bounced back to their source, as is appropriate to their evolutionary pace. Oh, and I've goofed the words up. Isn't that funny? Because I have another prayer that I say before getting on the internet. Anyway, I'll get it right in the transcript. That's almost right. Now, believe these or not that they work. Actually, don't even go there. Just prove it for yourself, if you like. What I find is that the days and the nights consecrated like this are different in both subtle and often not so subtle ways. I didn't notice this at first, but over a long period of time, when it wasn't a habit yet, I was very irregular with it. Pretty soon, I began to notice and pay attention, do the watch and observe thing, and I found out it makes a difference. Okay, now, of course, it's not just in the saying of the words. though words themselves do carry power, we are so much more powerful than that, though. In order to really bring your power to bear over these things, engage your heart. There is real intensity, intent, and feeling involved. Sometimes it is underlying. In other words, I don't get deeply into emotion each time these prayers are offered. It's been a number of years now. The heart is engaged nonetheless, and that is the power source or place of contact with it. And so it's mostly just a matter of being present. So often when we're saying our prayers, we're not really present. Now, I find myself a bit torn over integrating that next bit of understanding around the dark and the light side of manifestation here in 3D. Now remember, my path is to find and create balance. So that's my perspective on things. Your path may well be different. In unity and wholeness, there is a perfect balance, and I seek that out. There is no unity or wholeness absent the dark side that is clearly present, clearly manifesting with us here. If the Is-ness, prime creator or God, is omnipresent throughout the creation, which I accept, then that one is present in all of the darkness as well. There is no hell where God is not. Omnipresence is not limited. You can't keep God out, though some people have done that in the doctrine and the dogma that they propagate. Well, if it doesn't align with truth, capital T, I'm not interested. It's just boring to me. So, religion is not a topic I spend any time on. I'm happy for others on other paths to be there and doing what they are called to do, just as I am being true to my heart and my calling. I have nothing against religions, they just don't interest me. Moving on. God, now, that's another thing. The Supreme One is not trapped within religion, though many would have you believe theirs is the only and true way to our Source. Source has a lively and full existence outside of such fairy tales as that particular teaching. I must admit to a certain bit of laughter at those who try to put God in a box, telling her what she can and cannot think, what gender she is or isn't, what she can do, say, or create, as no other life forms like ours anywhere. Oh no, just on Earth. Some people truly believe this, a lot of them. I've heard people say, no, God wouldn't create such things as ETs. And it's amazing how we manage to project ourselves, our consciousness, out upon God. That's what this is. We're taking our own internal, self-created beliefs and restrictions and placing them on the Source, upon God, if you will. I think that in order to get around so much of the baggage that's been built up around the word God with the capital G, I shall start calling that one the Is-ness. That works for me. Simply, with the capital I, that which is, beingness. It's a little bit like Buddha's undifferentiated suchness. Is-ness is easier to say. Just pure being. Okay, so where are we now? How do I feel? I know I feel a bit different. As I said, I've spent some time this morning doing some reading and some deep exploration within. At least I think I said it. I don't like my prejudice that rises up every time the word Pleiadian comes up. I've chosen to drop that particular belief. For some reason, I get upset. I seem to look down on them, not trust them, and just feel negative. And it's silly. In this particular lifetime, I have nothing to base that on. Okay, back here, let's see. But since the feelings it comes with are so deep, so far unreachable in their origins, it's not quite so easy as that, just setting my intent. It requires more of me. So I've been going there. I've finally begun to open up to communication with the other planes and dimensions, with the light beings there. For a long while, I've had myself shut off from it. Now, this wasn't a bad thing. It was just a part of my path, and it was an important part, for it was during this time of breaking away from both all other beings and from my old concepts around God that I came much more fully into myself, my greater self. As we remove all loyalties to anything external, anything outside of the self, this can happen. It's hard to find the higher self, however, when we've got these various loyalties and allegiances to various beings, whether divine or not. We give parts of the self away like that. So, though this was a time laced with much pain and confusion, still, heart will lead you safely through anything. You need never fear. Just rest in center, be earnest, and trust. So, I guess what I'm sharing here is how I came to find God in the self, or at least being one with that. Truly, my friends, keep going to center, and I challenge you to say it's anything else. Okay, maybe it's not God directly. Maybe it's only a portal to that. I don't know. But I don't care too much either, since, in effect, they're the same. Now, you'll find people playing word games with these things. If you really want to get to the central core of your being, at some point you'll have to step off and disregard what everyone says. You won't find one single person, one teacher anywhere who holds a monopoly on the truth. I haven't anyway. We all hold certain parts or perspectives on that truth, but not one being holds it all. Together we do. Well, it's time for each of us to find out what part is ours to hold, for we must also share as we enter back into our original oneness. We're all but aspects of the one, the whole. As you step away from your loyalty to this one or that one, it doesn't mean you're repudiating or turning against that one. That one is just as wonderful now as they ever were. It's just an indication you've pulled back from your hero worship, your placing of trust in anything external to your own higher self or the Is-ness. And there may be some pain around that, for up until then, you had trusted that other one to do some of your thinking, some of your deciding for you. Did you see that? Were you aware of that? Do you see how that works? As we are loyal to absolutely anyone or anything, this is what happens. We give over our ability to tell what is what to that one to a certain extent. It varies with how deep the trust is. In some, it has morphed into worship, which will bring the greatest depth of pain on the discovery and the pullback. It's just the internal soul physics at work, nothing strange. Yet, we've got to be willing to go through the pain. That's important. We can't let ourself be in the mundane world of mind with this either. We've chosen the path of heart and of going within, being sincere and earnest and steadfast, going home in consciousness, to the light. Pain is natural. Did you know that? It's a product of exercise of free will in this dimension. Maybe even in others, but certainly here. That's my conclusion anyway. The mind gets jaded, gets exhausted with too much pain, and the being may retreat deep down within itself. Well, even that is okay. Anything is, because the center, the heart in its fullness, is still and always there, ready and willing to be engaged. You're always equally distant from God. You can't move away from that. I find my spiritual life to be a natural flow of going within and going without, back into 3D. It has a natural seeming flow of pain and bliss. My guess is that this is less natural, or maybe less extreme, on the higher densities or planes. Still, we're here in 3D, and it's important to stay and work through things here, not get too blissed out. And that means there will be pain in your life. Are you willing to let that be the case? Or did you perhaps think that once you found the true path or the true light or some such, that pain would be a thing of the past? Have a good look within. The old watch and observe. Let things, oh yeah, just look, remember. Don't touch, don't tamper, just observe. Let things stay just as they are, and you'll have the steepest learning curve. You'll move really fast. Now, I'd like to bring two things up. First of all, please consider that the pain, the natural pain of our growth, can be seen as the darker side of our path. Some view pain as negative, right? Well, in a distant sort of a way, it is. So, do see how it is mandatory for growth to occur, to be willing to embrace this very natural pain. Make room for that perspective, if you will. You can toss it out later if it doesn't work for you. Just consider the possibility for now. Be in heart. And next, I'll also say that once you cross over a certain point, different for each one, the huge part of the sting of pain just disappears. It doesn't hurt so much anymore. And this is a bit difficult to explain. It's like I say that I don't suffer anymore, and I don't. I do experience pain, but there is no suffering involved. Now, to mind, this will seem like splitting hairs. Believe me, it is not. It is very real how things shift when viewed from a heart or an inner perspective. Please don't think you're going to take your mind along into understanding of what this all really means. It just needs to be experienced first, and then we just know. Yes, what I'm really saying is that pain doesn't hurt so much. I know it sounds crazy. Just get out of mind. It isn't crazy. It's very real. It still hurts a hell of a lot. I have to take morphine for the pain that I get in this body. And I boo-hoo my little eyes out, when things hurt. But there's a difference. There's just a big difference. And I think a lot of it has to do with not being so identified with the body and with the mind and with 3D. But let me get back to the journal. Now, I'll blow the mind even further to say that your capacity for deep pain is also increased. You feel things even deeper, sometimes much deeper, once you've let suffering go from your life. It may be that suffering, which is a choice, not a requirement, acts as a barrier to further growth. As long as you choose to suffer, that means you're signaling to life that you've had enough. You can't take any more. Well, that's fine, but that also limits your growth, and it keeps you running in place. And please, you must see that you are the one doing the limiting, the self-limiting. I know it doesn't seem that way now. Right now, it just looks like you are suffering terribly. The pain is very real, I know. We've all pretty much been there and done that, so we can empathize. Still, at some point when you are ready, you will suddenly see how you're playing the victim role in the play. This is hard to hear. I know. I've had it said to me. It's a shock. It shatters the current mind paradigm around your reality there. No one likes to be told they're playing the victim, by their choice, no less. That makes it all the harder to accept. Well, stay in heart. If you're empty enough, if you're open, the empty cup, then you're ready to hear anything that vibrates with truth. You're at least willing to give it a good, honest look. I trust many of you see the mandatory levels and layers of surrendering that are necessary to get to this point. It's not easy. There's that built-in pain to trek through yet. The mind is tempted to break off in fear. It's been programmed to believe you're minuscule, inconsequential, a biological accident, for heaven's sake. So, how can you be equal to any such task? The mind asks. How indeed? Well, it isn't. That's right. Mind is not equal to the task. Only heart or center, from center, can you take this trek. It's time to shift out of being mind-driven. Time to let that way go. It's taken you as far as it can. Maybe look at it like that. It'll help. I don't know. Remember, this trek is primarily your own. You're doing it your way. That's most important. Time to stop relying on other gurus or teachers or guides or books or whatever. Time to set firm reliance on the God that's within you, your own inner or higher self. Okay, there's been a lot here, a heck of a lot. Some will come along only a little way with some of this and be able to fully accept other parts. Anything is fine. Just stick to what feels right for the self. Be loyal to you. Start respecting the self like that, and you'll go all the way with it. You'll one day find yourself what I call home, capital H. It means home in consciousness, in full possession, full awareness of the fullness of self. right where you are. You don't have to wait for any ascension. You don't have to wait for anything. That's a bunch of muck. All there is now. Hello. We don't have to go anywhere or do anything, my friends. Some particular date coming or going has no real regard within. We can commune with all of life, all dimensions and densities, right here, right now. We're not limited any more than we choose to be. That's right, we choose our own limitations by what we believe. And well, that turns out to be fine too, since we're in charge, ultimately, of our own beliefs. We can change them any way we like. We are practically gods with them. Once we get to that, oh my God, the possibilities are truly infinite. Nothing and no one can hold you back, my friend, if you just remember your true inner work in all the cosmos is just to be you. That is all. Save yourself, and you'll find the cosmos reflects that right back to you. Good day. Good life.